Of 2016 was the Kaepernick awakening. We have camera phones now capturing unarmed black men getting killed by law enforcement.
Cops are getting paid leave for killing people. That's not right.
So Colin Kaepernick takes a knee, and that becomes the symbol.
You will not replace us!
Get that son of a bitch off the field right now. Out. He's fired. He's fired!
Don't shoot! Don't shoot!
He sacrificed himself for something bigger.
I think America is just now figuring out its identity after hundreds of years. And at the same time, Colin Kaepernick was figuring out his identity.
Tommy, where are you?
I'm in Brooklyn.
Okay, where in Brooklyn are you?
At Greenpoint.
Very good.
How about yourself?
Yeah. Well, I am right now in the Hudson Valley. I
nice.
was in Crown Heights yesterday at this time, though. My son had his prom last night. So I was down there and
Great.
for that whole thing, and then I'm coming back down for graduation in a couple of weeks. But
Where in Hudson Valley?
where am I? I'm up near, like, halfway between like Rhinebeck and Hudson, I guess, like in Red Hook, New York, where I work at a radio station here.
Yep.
So it's pretty nice. It's so beautiful here. Anyway.
Yeah, it's gorgeous.
Yeah. Well, let's start. Because we're tight on time already. I apologize.
No
I'm
worries.
usually a little bit more together, but I just kind of hit the ground running this morning. So thanks for your patience. Really appreciate it.
All good.
But I'm thrilled that we were able to pull it off because I'm a big fan of Kaepernick America. Really
Hear that.
I'm really glad that it was put on my radar and that I was able to see it. It's at the Tribeca Film Festival.
We're in the virtual portion of the festival. So
Is it?
People
Oh,
can
is it
watch
already there? Are we already virtual?
We're virtual right now, and so people can watch it.
Oh, it does say at home. You're right.
At home, right.
As
Until
of the
19th.
9th, it went virtual. Okay, very good. So now I understand. Okay. But how did the screening go?
We did not have a screening.
You didn't?
We're in the virtual, they have a virtual portion of the festival, then they have a live in-person portion of the festival. So
Got it. Yeah, and I've been mostly myself watching virtually because I'm up here, but although I did come down over the weekend and saw one thing that I was involved with, but so you haven't had this film though. I mean, well, let's see. Did it premiere at was this the premiere?
No, it
premiered
premiered at Seattle International.
It was there before. Okay.
We did have an audience. We did have more than one audience, actually.
Well, because this film, more than most, really requires that Q&A, those Q&As, those conversations, right? And then the lobby conversation, because a lot of people have very strong feelings about it. The topic, which is, of course, Kaepernick is the catalyst, right? But it's the controversy that he created that is the true story, right? Well, how did you guys come together, by the way? Ross, how do you guys?
We came together on this project. Tommy, we knew each other before a little bit, but Gary and Bill, our producers, kind of linked us up for this project, thinking we'd make a good tandem for it. And they were right.
They were right.
So you guys were what's the term then? You guys were set up.
Yes.
Yeah,
yes,
blind date.
Yeah.
Well, it did seem to work. Do you feel like anything did anything kind of come up in the course of making the documentary? I guess that maybe even was a surprise to you guys in terms of
from the actual story itself, or
Yeah,
Or
sure. And then also just in terms of response, maybe people you spoke to or some of the subjects, or I don't know, like, were there any things that, because it's like in one level, not to take up too much more of the time talking, but it's a pretty, it's about, race in America, right? So you have that, and it just and then, but there are sort of currents underneath that, I guess, is my feeling.
yeah, I mean, I feel like, and I'll let Tommy kind of follow up on this. I think for me, when we came into this, 2016 as a year where Kaepernick protested, Trump got elected, there are police killings happening. Like it's,
Yeah.
And so one of the things that we discussed in our first conversation was like, I think what's missing in the landscape of like, I mean, we can go on about this part for hours, but
Oh, we can.
I think people think of a lot of these things as these separate events. Trump getting elected, Kaepernick protesting, police killings happening, week after week. And the reality is they're all kind of happening simultaneously.
Mhm.
And we knew that. And that was sort of the approach to the film. It's like, hey, let's take 2016 and marker it in time and show people like, hey, these things are all kind of connected. But it wasn't until we started laying it out where we're like, shit, like there was a lot was going on, more than I think. It's like when you digest it, and there's things that aren't even in here. When you
Right.
digest it that way, you kind of realize like, oh wow, like we will be studying this year as like sort of a timestamp for a long time.
Yeah, two things for me. One, is that we knew jumping into this film that we were going to be dealing with a lot of kind of barriers. One being the major entity that is the NFL. And so when we went out looking for people to participate, be in the film, we reached out to Hugh Jackson, former coach of Kaepernick's and an NFL coach for years, and he I would have thought he'd have been hesitant about jumping into the film, but he immediately said yes, and was supportive of our effort to make this film, saw the importance in it. And so I don't know if that should have surprised me, but it did, because I was expecting it to be a little bit harder to kind of get
That you'd be
somebody to-
towing the line and have a sense of loyalty to the organization.
Yeah, exactly. And then there's that, and then I think one of the things that really struck me was as we started diving into the material and looking at just how kind of fresh-faced, young, naive in a way that Colin was at the beginning of his career, and then watching his evolution, because you can just watch him and see his evolution as he starts to
Become politicized.
Yeah, exactly. Become activated,
Right,
and
activated. Yeah.
that to me, because you don't think about it. What you do is when you think about him, you go back to where he was as an activist. As opposed to going back to him that rookie year when he got drafted and he's just coming out. And his eyes are big, and that to me definitely struck me.
And it also sort of gives more, I don't know, explanation isn't the right word, but the context for the fact that when he took for the knee, and when he was expressing his feelings, he was kind of discovering those feelings in real time. It wasn't like this was a guy who had years of kind of figuring out all of his, or himself, his identity, and it was developing this identity of his over time, and we were there to watch it as it kind of evolved. So like when he took the knee, it didn't seem like he really had it was planned for that long.
Well, it's not, as a person who's the exact same age as Kaepernick, I mean, come on, we got to figure it out every step of the way. That's how you approach the world, right? It's like in your 20s, it's like, God, I got this figured out. Your 30s, I got this figured out. And I'm guessing when I'm in my 40s, I'll be like, I didn't have it figured out. So I think people look at him and say, did he know what he was doing? Did he understand the backlash? Nobody knows anything in their 20s, they think they do. And it's not, has nothing to do with the protest. It's just life. And so, his issue just happens to be in front of everybody on the biggest stage with the biggest stakes. It's no different than any other 25-year-old or however old he was when he took the knee. The rest of the 20 somethings in the world get to do all this stuff in private, where nobody's scrutinizing them every step of the way.
Right.
So that's the only difference, is that he's got to grow up, and in your 20s you're still growing up, but you're growing up in front of everybody, and you're the talk of the world.
Right. So he's sort of like a child star who gets arrested for drunk driving and all that stuff right in front of us. And
this film is
we tend to look at athletes, because they're professionals and they're millionaires and they're on TV, like they're all grown up, and they're not when they're in their 20s.
And this is also a quest for, you mentioned the word identity, and this film is about identity. And to put it into some context, what Ross is talking about is our life's journey is discovering ourselves and understanding ourselves. And the older we get, perhaps the closer we get to being able to understand what our identity is and who we are. Well, this is also about America discovering its identity, and just to put that into context, we are still in search of our identity as Americans as to who we are, what we are, and that's kind of one of the things I think we really wanted to get across in this film, was to say, while and Don Lemon says it, while Colin Kaepernick is in search of his identity, so is America, and that's really what this is about.
It's a great point. That's really well said. And you mentioned Don Lemon, and we should say that Don is an executive producer on this film too, as well as being and I say the word talking head, which is like kind of a controversial term, only a shorthand. He's one of the subjects of the film that you guys talked to, and we should mention a few others: April Dinwoody and activist DeRay McKesson. Thank you, and Steve. Why does everybody's name have to be difficult today? I'm not sure, but I wanted to mention one good person who, and this was a very, I thought, a powerful point in the film. You brought on Nate Boyer, right, who was a 49er fan, and then he became a celebrated, according to the literature here, the celebrated Green Beret. And when he took, how did you? And then he had kind of a mixed, he wrote a letter to Colin, right, an open letter rather, in a paper, right?
Yep.
Newspaper.
Yeah, it was like the Army Times. So
the Army Times.
Yeah.
So you have to have a subscription. And which was brought to Colin's attention, and I thought that was really like a powerful moment in the film. How did you? I mean, did that make the news? Is that how you knew about Nate?
I mean, you research the stuff. You know everything. Yeah,
that's a good point. Yeah.
And he's, it's the origin story to the gesture itself, so seems important.
Also unpacks the some of the things that everybody complains about. Some of the narrative around, these he's against the military, he's this and that, and they create this notion, but in fact he actually reached out to somebody who was in the military, or they reached out to one another, and which is how we should have discourse, you would think.
Yeah, I was just thinking, it's like, because there's most of the messages we get from the people that were so offended by Colin Kaepernick is like, you're fine as long as you're, playing for the team and not speaking up, and but the moment you do become actually a sort of an African American, then I have a problem with it. But as long as you're a chess piece or what have you, it's fine. And I think that had to sort of really also, I'm assuming, not sit well with Colin. That he was kind of told just to play and shut up. I mean, that was.
Well, anyway, that's often the case with athletes, right?
Right. Yeah.
They're not given the respect of somebody to have a thought or a notion or a belief.
It's a subject which it's called Kaepernick America. It's co-directed by Ross Hockrow and Tommy Walker, and it's currently, if you have a Tribeca virtual badge, You can watch it right now, probably through the rest of the festival. And I meant to ask you this before we started, but I sabotaged that. So, but the question, this can be edited out, of course, but the question is, did you guys find distribution yet?
Not as of yet. We're still in search.
Okay.
Challenging,
Yeah.
lots of
Oh,
challenges.
sure.
As I said, some of the barriers that we are confronted in making the film are or things that, are the behemoths like the NFL can be difficult to work
So,
around.
You don't think this will end up on ESPN films or?
No. You know what? Here's my answer to that. We directed the film, not our job.
Well, I what I would love to happen, if you guys are amenable to it, is to when that happens, which it will, and I have zero doubt of that it will come together in the best possible way for you guys with this film, because it's a really powerful documentary, and it's called Kaepernick America again. And I'd love to maybe do a part 2, because it's kind of hard to do something so condensed on such a big subject. And you're right, we're in the middle.
We would love to.
I thank you. I really appreciate it. In the meantime, though, best of luck with the documentary. And I was so glad for the opportunity to talk to you both.
Yeah, appreciate it. Thanks for having us.
And feel better as soon as I hope you feel better, recover quickly.
I got all the drugs now, so we're good.
That's important. All right.
Thanks so much, Adam.
Thank you.
Thank you.
All right.
See ya.
Bye-bye. Thank you.